Are the Illuminati making human sacrifices right under our noses? Welcome to Critical Theories. It's time to take a trip down the rabbit hole. Deep among the redwoods of Monterey, California, sits a secluded camp known as Bohemian Grove.
The Bohemian Club.
The Grove, not the club itself.
Bohemian Grove.
There's always been a lot of questions about Bohemian Grove and
The Bohemian Grove.
Initially founded by Henry Harry Edwards, the Grove was intended to be a getaway camp for the Bohemian Club. The Bohemian Club was a group of men who wished to engage in softer activities than were publicly considered manly. Many artists and creative types were drawn to the club as it gave them an opportunity to engage in discussion and development of their arts by like-minded men. Over time, as they continued to gather in the Grove, their lifestyle of lounging around the forest with plenty of drink, smoke, and company began to appeal to men of all walks of life. Over time, the Bohemian Grove caught the attention of a group of businessmen from San Francisco, who through the 1880s and 90s worked their way in and took charge of the club. Under the guise of using their funds to acquire more land and better lodging for the club, these San Franciscan elites brought up the land surrounding the initial camp and began bringing in other rich and powerful men. Quickly, the Bohemian Club transitioned from a group of artists and free thinkers into a conglomeration of politicians, industry tycoons, and other positions of authority and influence. By the turn of the century, the gatherings at the Grove were unrecognizable to the early members of the club. While they still claimed to retain their bohemian status by openly welcoming artists, musicians, and entertainers, it was clear that the mission had changed. With so many men of power among their ranks, something altogether different was going on. Throughout the 20th century, the reach of the Bohemian Grove expanded throughout the American government and across numerous industries, including banking, real estate, and architecture. With all these powerful men gathered together, it was inevitable that they would discuss business at some point. The motto of the Bohemian Grove is "Weaving spiders come not here." But it is an open secret that this is seen by the members as more of a suggestion than a rule. World politics, warfare tactics, and deals all across the private sector have been orchestrated there. At the time, the involved parties would often claim that their meeting one another at the Grove was coincidental. However, in some cases, such as the Manhattan Project years later, it would be revealed that things came together during the annual treat rather intentionally. With world-altering decisions such as the plan to develop the first atomic bomb being made at the Grove, one has to wonder, what else is being decided there? It has long been suspected that the stock market and the status of the American economy are controlled by the members of the Bohemian Grove. CEOs and high-ranking bankers, venture capitalists, and titans of industry gathering each summer to determine the ebb and flow of the American dollar. It's not hard to imagine discussions of interest rate hikes, price fixing, and insider trading deals. While there are laws against such things, who's going to stop them? All of these meetings are off the books. If they're gathering at the Bohemian Grove, there are no cameras, no recording devices, and every person, from guests to camp staff, are either sworn to secrecy or kept far away from the action. The same can be argued for the political side of the membership. Many have theorized that the Bohemian Grove is where Republican presidential candidates are vetted and chosen. While there is no direct evidence of this, again, the ban on cameras and journalists makes hard evidence difficult to come by. There are some suspicious coincidences. At least 6 Republican presidents since Herbert Hoover have been members of the Bohemian Grove, and among the public list of members, many of their staff can also be found. Presidential hopefuls such as Newt Gingrich and several Supreme Court justices and numerous congressmen are also among them. If Republicans wish to find their next party leader in secret, there would be no better place than the Grove. There may be more beneath the surface than just powerful people getting together and making side deals with one another. Considering the membership includes so many influential men, some have speculated that the entire camp is a loose disguise for members of the Illuminati or the New World Order to meet without raising suspicion. If that many politicians and businessmen met in any other setting, alarm bells would be going off around the world. However, under the umbrella of a time-honored tradition of going to the Grove, they can gather in large numbers and make decisions they would otherwise be unable to discuss in private. The argument for a meeting of a super-secret society is not entirely built on circumstantial evidence, however. There are rituals and practices that have slipped out from behind the curtain of secrecy. Practices that many find suspicious, if not downright damning. You see, there's actually one journalist who was able to sneak in a camera and obtain direct footage of some of the things going on in Bohemian Grove, the infamous and notorious Alex Jones. Alex Jones is known for raising suspicions about a possible secret globalist government that is pulling the strings behind closed doors. He's landed in hot water on more than one occasion, and even those who believe in his message have questioned his methods and practices. Regardless of how you feel about him, the fact remains that he has, to date, been the only person to successfully gain footage of the Grove during a camp meeting. In the summer of 2000, during the 2-week retreat, Jones and a partner were able to sneak onto the campgrounds with a hidden camera. He utilized his Texan accent to blend in with what is known as the Hillbilly Cabin, the subgroup of the club that boasts such members as the Bush family. They were eventually discovered and escorted off the premises, but not before capturing some enlightening footage. What Jones and his team found was a chilling set of rituals. What he calls the global elite were dressed all in robes of red, black, and silver. They performed several rituals, seemingly in worship of a giant statue of an owl. The Great Owl of Bohemia, as they heard it called, is also the focus of a ceremony that culminates in the burning of an effigy. Now, the effigy has long been the source of public discussion, as there had been rumors of such a practice. Where Jones's narrative differs from the rest is that he and his team seem to believe that inside the effigy there's an actual live person. They cite unprovoked movement from the object, among other things that seem to indicate that there may indeed be someone inside. As hard as it would be to believe, the footage seems to suggest that the rich and powerful of the world may be performing human sacrifices in honor of this mysterious great owl. Some believe the owl to be a symbol for wisdom, and that the effigy is merely symbolic reverence for wisdom above everything. However, the circumstances surrounding the activities at the Grove, as well as the possibility of human sacrifice, throw that entire idea out the window. According to club history, the burning of the effigy before the owl is known as the cremation of care. It was initially a scene from a play put on by various members of the Bohemian Club, and the story spanned nearly the entire 2 weeks of the retreat. In more modern times, the effigy ceremony has been separated from the plays, many of which have been discarded entirely, and has been placed during the opening ceremonies on the first night. In the words of an anonymous member of the club, the effigy serves as an exorcising of the demon to ensure the success of the ensuing 2 weeks. What demon would need to be exorcised? Why does it need to be cleansed every year? Why does the owl seem to play such an important part in this ritual? These questions give rise to rather divisive speculation. Many have argued that the ceremony is merely symbolic, as is the terminology of the demon and exorcism. Many, however, believe these words and actions are meant to be taken at face value. What better place to hide than right out in the open? Proponents of this theory claim that if the real actions are described poetically enough by the members of the club, most people will assume they are being hyperbolic. No one will dig any deeper if they believe the actions performed by the members of the Grove are just symbolic. The spiritual ramifications of the members of the Bohemian Club are staggering when you consider the massive success and financial gain obtained by the members individually. It is mind-blowing. However, when you consider the success, power, and wealth of the group as a whole, it does raise more than a few questions. Does the potential human sacrifice have anything to do with their good fortune, even if the sacrifice is merely an effigy as they claim? Does it qualify as a sacrifice in exchange for wealth and authority? If we look to religion and mythology, we find several characters who are closely associated with owls. In Hinduism, for example, Lakshmi is often accompanied by owls. However, if we limit our scope to entities who take the form of an owl, the primary 2 examples are rather interesting. In Greek mythology, Athena was known to take the form of an owl, and she was the goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare. The other main character who comes up time and time again is Lilith from ancient Mesopotamian myths. Lilith, or Lila-Tu as she is sometimes known, has many different backstories and powers, depending on which culture from that time and region you are considering. In some stories, she is an owl-headed demoness, akin to a succubus. In Jewish tradition, she is the first wife of Adam, cursed to roam the earth, tempting men and promising power to those who bow to her authority. Either of these entities would fit the circumstances. If the owl represents Athena, it would make sense that the members would wish to gain wisdom and success in warfare from her. If it represents Lilith, it is possible that they wish to stroke the demoness's ego and receive continued wealth, success, and fame from her. Regardless of the intended beneficiary, the possibility of the American elite class indulging in possible human sacrifice for personal power and glory is a disturbing thought. The Bohemian Grove and the secretive Bohemian Club that meet there may never officially give up their secrets. Whether they perform a human sacrifice to an owl every year may never be definitively proven. Whether they utilize their time there to manipulate national and global events will always be suspected, but we may never know for sure just how much influence Grove has. For now, we can only speculate on what really goes on at this sleepaway camp for the rich and powerful.